You can keep your drama epics and your Oscar speeches. I want the movies that make you spit your drink out laughing. Parody films aren't just goofy side notes, they're cinematic revolutions, with a rubber chicken in one hand and a stick of dynamite in the other. What other genre dares to roast Hollywood and get away with it? If you had to pick only one kind of movie for the rest of your life, would you risk passing up pure parody chaos? Stick around, things are about to get ridiculous in the best possible way. Airplane, 1980. If there's a single film responsible for detonating the rules of comedy and scattering the pieces across every generation since, it's Airplane. This movie didn't just redefine parody, it threw the entire concept into a blender and poured out pure cinematic chaos. Released in 1980, Airplane took aim at the disaster movie craze of the 1970s and didn't miss a single target. The plot itself is simple enough. A traumatized ex-fighter pilot must land a passenger jet after the crew gets sidelined by food poisoning. But let's be honest, nobody remembers this movie for its storyline. Airplane is all about the jokes. The writers didn't just pack the script with gags, they crammed jokes into every available space, from the background to the smallest prop. Every time you blink, you risk missing something brilliant, bizarre, or just plain silly. What makes Airplane truly legendary isn't just its speed, it's the way it refuses to respect any boundaries. The dialogue bounces from deadpan to absurd, with every character playing it straight no matter how wild the situation gets. Leslie Nielsen's breakthrough role as Dr. Rumack set a new gold standard for deadpan delivery. The man could read a weather report and make it sound like a punchline. Don't Call Me Shirley isn't just a line, it's a cultural reset. The cast is an all-star lineup of serious actors playing everything with straight faces while the world unravels around them. That's the secret sauce. The more serious they try to be, the funnier the movie gets. Visual gags pile on top of wordplay. One-liners crash into slapstick, and there are sight jokes hiding in the corners of every shot. It's not just a movie, it's a comedy obstacle course, and you'll find yourself rewinding just to catch everything you missed. Airplane's influence is so deep, it basically invented its own language of humor. Later parodies spent decades trying to capture that lightning, but nothing beats the original. There's a reason Airplane isn't just quoted, it's studied, and it's proof that sometimes the only way to survive a cinematic disaster is to laugh your way through it. How many comedies can you say changed the game for everyone who followed? Blazing Saddles, 1974. If you thought the Old West was all tumbleweeds and stoic cowboys, Mel Brooks had a different idea, and it involved a pie to the face and a stick of dynamite under the sheriff's desk. Blazing Saddles is what happens when you take the classic Hollywood Western, drop it in a barrel of dynamite, and light the fuse with a smirk. This 1974 comedy didn't just poke fun at the cowboy myth, it dismantled the whole set, broke the fourth wall, and then handed the audience the blueprints so they could laugh at the whole process. The setup is classic. A corrupt political scheme sends a black sheriff named Bart into a racist, backward frontier town, expecting him to fail. Instead, Bart outsmarts everyone with charm, wit, and a whole lot of genre-busting tricks. Cleveland Little delivers every line with perfect timing, flipping the script on every stereotype and expectation. Gene Wilder, as the washed-up gunslinger the Waco Kid, brings a kind of dry brilliance that makes every line land twice as hard. And then there's the supporting cast, a rogues gallery of buffoons, villains, and townsfolk who are all in on the joke, even when they don't know it. Blazing Saddles doesn't just parody westerns, it roasts the whole idea of movie making. There's a brawl that spills off the set and into a neighboring musical. The film even pauses to laugh at itself, with characters breaking the fourth wall, actors questioning their own lines, and Mel Brooks showing up in multiple ridiculous disguises. Every minute is packed with jokes, slapstick, and social satire so sharp it could cut through a cactus. But the wildest part? Beneath all the madness, there's a strange kind of love for the very genre it's mocking. Brooks didn't hate westerns, he just wanted to remind everyone that sometimes the best way to honor a classic is to take the stuffing out and turn it upside down. Decades later, Blazing Saddles still stands as a masterclass in how to take risks, challenge expectations, and have a blast while doing it. It's a comedy that dares you to keep up, and you'll be laughing too hard to realize how clever it actually is. If parody is about rewriting the rules, then Blazing Saddles is the movie that scribbled all over the rulebook in permanent marker. The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad, 1988. If you ever wondered what would happen if you unleashed a tornado in a police station, then put a badge on it and set it loose, you get The Naked Gun. This film didn't just parody cop shows, it obliterated them with more force than a suspect being thrown through a plate glass window. The story follows Lieutenant Frank Drebin, a detective so oblivious he could trip over his own shoelaces and still solve the case, though never on purpose. Leslie Nielsen, who'd spent most of his career as a serious actor, suddenly became the king of slapstick by playing everything with straight-faced sincerity, no matter how ridiculous the scenario. The genius of The Naked Gun is that every moment feels like a dare. Can you keep a straight face while someone's falling down an escalator? Can you deliver a romantic monologue as the world's biggest mess unfolds behind you? This movie says yes, and then cranks up the chaos even further. The gags come at you from every angle. Sight jokes, puns, pratfalls, and wordplay that sneaks up and mugs you while you're not looking. The script leaves no police procedural cliché untouched, from dramatic interrogations to the ever-present enhance moment at the evidence board. Even background extras are sometimes in on the joke, pulling faces or participating in visual gags you only notice on the second or third watch. But The Naked Gun isn't just a pileup of jokes. What really makes it soar is that everyone in the cast, from the biggest star to the smallest extra, acts like this is the most serious cop drama ever made. That earnestness is what turns every absurd moment into comedic gold. And it's not just the performances, the film's direction, editing, and even music are all played straight, making the punchlines land twice as hard. O.J. Simpson's Norberg gets put through more physical comedy punishment than a cartoon character, while George Kennedy and Priscilla Presley deliver lines with so much sincerity, you almost forget how ridiculous everything is. The result? A movie that you don't just watch, you experience. The Naked Gun dares you not to laugh, and nobody wins that challenge. It proved that the only thing better than a great parody is one that takes itself completely seriously. In the world of spoof, this is the badge of honor that every comedy cop still wants to wear. Young Frankenstein, 1974. Some movies are content to make fun of their inspirations. Others, like Young Frankenstein, wrap them in a giant, affectionate bear hug before giving them a wedgie. Mel Brooks returned to the parody game with this loving send-up of classic Universal monster movies, and he brought a level of craft and care that most comedies only dream about. The film is shot in black and white, uses original laboratory equipment from the 1931 Frankenstein, and is filled to the brim with foggy graveyards, lightning bolts, and howling wolves. From the very first frame, it's obvious Brooks isn't just mocking old horror films, he's worshipping them with every gag. The story follows Dr. Frederick Frankenstein, pronounced Frankenstein, of course, a respected American scientist desperate to escape the shadow of his infamous grandfather. Gene Wilder delivers a performance that's both manic and heartfelt, leaping between high-minded respectability and wild-eyed hysteria. The supporting cast is a rogues gallery of comedy icons. Marty Feldman's Igor, or Igor, pops his eyes and mangles pronunciations with expert timing. Terry Garr, Madeline Kahn, and Cloris Leachman steal scenes as some of the most memorable supporting characters in any comedy. And Peter Boyle's monster brings just the right mix of terror and tenderness. But what really puts Young Frankenstein over the top is its balance of reverence and irreverence. Every gothic horror cliché is both celebrated and demolished in a single breath. Brooks and his writers stuffed the movie with running gags, callbacks, and even a show-stopping tap dance number to put in on the Ritz that's as bizarre as it is unforgettable. The jokes range from the slapstick, think shifting humpbacks and malfunctioning drawbridges, to the sharply verbal, with innuendo and wit layered under the surface. At times, the movie is so beautifully made, you almost forget you're watching a comedy. Decades after its release, Young Frankenstein is still quoted, referenced, and rewatched by new generations of fans. It's not just a parody, it's the definition of a loving roast, crafted with as much passion for its subject as any so-called serious film. When parody is done this well, it becomes something bigger than a joke. It becomes a classic in its own right. For everyone who loves horror, comedy, or both, this film is stitched together from pure genius. This is Spinal Tap, 1984. There are mockumentaries, and then there's Spinal Tap, the movie that turned the volume up to 11 and never looked back. Rob Reiner's cult classic didn't just parody the world of rock music. It ripped open the amp cabinet and exposed every overblown, self-serious cliché the industry ever produced. This is Spinal Tap follows the fictional British heavy metal band on a disastrous American tour, and by the end, you'll swear you've seen these guys headline your local arena. Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer disappear so completely into their roles that the line between fiction and reality reality blurs in the best way possible. What sets Spinal Tap apart is how deeply it understands its target. The movie nails every detail, from the overstuffed stage sets and malfunctioning props to the awkward interviews and behind-the-scenes drama. The band's album covers are offensive or bizarre. Their stage shows feature Stonehenge monuments so tiny they're dwarfed by the dancers, and their personal relationships implode over the most trivial nonsense imaginable. The film is packed with legendary moments, amps that go to 11, drummers who keep mysteriously disappearing, and lyrics so absurd they could only be written by someone who actually loves rock and roll enough to make fun of it. The genius is in the improvisation. Most of the dialogue was made up on the spot, which gives the movie a loose, authentic feel. The characters never wink at the camera. They play it all straight, convinced that Spinal Tap is the greatest band ever. That sincerity is what sells the jokes and turns what could have been a simple music spoof into a landmark of comedy filmmaking. The fake documentary style lets the movie both mock and celebrate rock stardom, capturing the big egos and fragile dreams that fuel the entire industry. Spinal Tap's influence stretches far beyond comedy. It helped launch the mockumentary genre into the mainstream and inspired 1,000 imitators, from The Office to Best in Show. For musicians, filmmakers, and fans alike, this film is more than a parody. It's a warning, a tribute, and a celebration of everything ridiculous about the quest for fame. In a world full of rock legends, Spinal Tap might be the only band that's unforgettable for all the wrong reasons, and that's exactly why it remains a cult classic. If you've never seen it, turn up the volume and get ready for a tour like no other. Spaceballs 1987. If you've ever wondered what would happen if Hollywood's greatest space epics collided headfirst with pure nonsense, Spaceballs is your answer. Mel Brooks, already a legend in the parody game, turned his sights to the galaxy far, far away, and then went a step further, skewering every science fiction trope along the way. Released in 1987, Spaceballs is a comedy supernova, packed with everything from laser-firing ring battles to villains with names so silly you'll be quoting them for years. This isn't just a Star Wars parody, it's a loving lampoon of the entire sci-fi adventure genre, and it takes no prisoners. The story centers on Lone Star, a dashing, down-on-his-luck hero, his half-man, half-dog sidekick Barf, and the spoiled Princess Vespa, who's running from a forced marriage. They're pursued across the galaxy by the evil Dark Helmet, played by Rick Moranis in one of the most gloriously goofy villain roles ever, and his boss, President Scroob, portrayed by Brooks himself. Along the way, the film explodes every cliché in the science fiction playbook. Light-speed chases, impossible gadgets, and dramatic space battles that are less epic and more chaotic. From the moment Yogurt, yes, Yogurt, appears to deliver his version of the Force, the Schwartz, you know you're in for a comedy that refuses to play by any rules. What makes Spaceballs a cult classic isn't just its willingness to mock beloved icons, it's the sheer joy in every frame. The movie's humor is broad, clever, and sometimes gloriously stupid. Brooks peppers in visual puns, fourth wall-breaking jokes, and even takes time to mock his own film's merchandising, turning Spaceballs the Flamethrower into a running gag that's still quoted at conventions today. The cast delivers every absurd line with conviction, making even the wildest scenarios feel like they somehow belong in this universe. Daphne Zuniga's Princess Vespa and John Candy's Barf are perfectly mismatched travel buddies, and every supporting character, from Dot Matrix the robot to the perennially lost Spaceball soldiers, gets a moment to shine. Spaceballs also stands as a bridge between generations of comedy fans. If you grew up loving Star Wars, you'll catch the references. If you just love ridiculous, high-energy comedy, the film's sight gags and slapstick will keep you laughing. It's a spoof that's as much a celebration of what it mocks as it is a playful roast. Decades after its release, fans still gather to quote their favorite lines, wear Dark Helmet cosplay, and chant, "May the Schwartz be with you." Spaceballs proves that sometimes the best way to honor a classic is to take it less seriously and have a lot more fun. Galaxy Quest 1999. Imagine if the washed-up actors from your favorite old sci-fi show were mistaken for real space heroes by actual aliens. That's the genius setup behind Galaxy Quest, a film that turns convention culture on its head and manages to parody science fiction while also being one of its best examples. Released in 1999, this cult gem pays tribute to Star Trek, fandom, and the entire galaxy-spanning world of TV sci-fi. But it never settles for cheap shots or lazy jokes. Instead, Galaxy Quest is a heartfelt, hilarious ride that proves parody can also be pure love letter. The plot follows the former stars of a once popular space adventure series who spend their days signing autographs and making awkward convention appearances. Suddenly, they're kidnapped by a group of well-meaning but utterly clueless aliens who think the show's broadcasts are historical documents, not entertainment. Desperate for help, these extraterrestrial fans enlist the cast to fight a real intergalactic villain. Tim Allen leads the crew with an accidental bravado that's part William Shatner, part washed-up action hero, while Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, Tony Shalhoub, and Sam Rockwell round out one of the most unexpectedly perfect comedic ensembles ever assembled. Galaxy Quest excels because it never mocks its source material with cruelty. Instead, it lovingly pokes fun at both the ridiculousness of TV sci-fi and the passion of the fans who keep it alive. The film bounces from slapstick to clever satire, using everything from malfunctioning teleporters to impossible alien customs as setups for some truly memorable gags. Alan Rickman's character, a Shakespearean actor stuck in prosthetics and catchphrases, delivers both gut-busting laughs and surprising pathos. And let's not forget the Thermians, whose unwavering belief in the crew turns them into some of the film's funniest and most lovable characters. What really cements Galaxy Quest as a cult classic is its warmth. The movie manages to celebrate the power of fandom, the beauty of second chances, and the idea that even those who feel washed up can still rise to the occasion when the universe calls. It's not just a parody, it's a journey from joke to genuine heroism. No wonder it's beloved by sci-fi diehards and newcomers alike. If you ever doubted that a parody could have real heart, Galaxy Quest is the proof. By Grabthar's Hammer, it's an absolute must-watch. UHF 1989. UHF is the kind of movie that shouldn't exist, and yet somehow it does. Pure, unfiltered, Weird Al Yankovic unleashed onto the world. Released in 1989, this fever dream of a film is a parody of, well, everything. Late-night TV, action movies, Indiana Jones, commercials, talk shows, nothing is safe from Al's wild imagination. The story follows George Newman, a daydreaming slacker who stumbles into running a failing local TV station. Rather than play it safe, he transforms the channel into a non-stop carousel of absurd programs, insane commercials, and sketches that look like they came from the world's strangest dream. From the opening scenes, UHF tells you what kind of ride you're in for. One moment, George is battling ancient temple traps, Indiana Jones style. The next, he's introducing Wheel of Fish and Conan the Librarian, a man so strict he'll cut you in half for returning your book late. The programming lineup includes everything from cooking shows that end in disaster to children's shows where the host teaches kids how to drink from a fire hose. If you think that sounds chaotic, that's the point. Weird Al packs the film with sight gags, parody sketches, and pop culture references that come so fast you'll miss half the jokes if you blink. UHF flopped at the box office, thanks mostly to coming out the same summer as Batman and Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. But cult status arrived quickly, as VHS and cable viewers discovered its unique brand of lunacy. Michael Richards steals scenes as Stanley Spadowski, a janitor turned children's show host whose manic energy and total innocence make him the movie's secret weapon. The film has the fearless spirit of an anything-goes sketch show, where no idea is too strange and no parody is off-limits. But the real legacy of UHF is how much it loves the oddballs and outsiders, the underdogs who find a way to win, even if their victory is weirder than anyone expected. It's a celebration of creative chaos, a love letter to local TV, and proof that parody doesn't have to follow anyone else's rules. In a world that sometimes takes itself far too seriously, UHF is a reminder to laugh at the nonsense and maybe embrace a little of it yourself. Shaun of the Dead 2004. There are zombie movies, and then there's Shaun of the Dead, a film that takes the apocalypse, dunks it in a pint of lager, and makes you laugh at the end of the world. When Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg unleashed this British parody on Hollywood, they didn't just poke fun at zombie cliches, they reanimated the entire genre. At first glance, Shaun of the Dead looks like a typical horror comedy, but it quickly reveals itself as something much more. It's a razor-sharp, affectionate tribute to everything from George Romero's classics to the simple agony of everyday life. The story follows Shaun, a lovable loser stuck in a rut. He works a dead-end job, has a strained relationship with his girlfriend, and spends way too much time at his local pub. But when the zombie apocalypse erupts in his suburban neighborhood, Shaun's biggest concern isn't survival, it's winning back his ex and making it to the Winchester for one last round. The film's genius lies in its ability to blend gut-busting humor with genuine suspense and even heartwarming moments. Every scene is packed with visual gags, running jokes, and clever callbacks, making rewatching a necessity for catching all the subtle details. Wright's direction is a masterclass in parody. The editing is tight with quick cuts and perfectly timed visual punchlines. Peg and Nick Frost make for one of comedy's most lovable duos, riffing off each other with natural chemistry. Even as the bodies pile up and the world crumbles, the film never loses its sense of warmth or its respect for the genre it's mocking. The zombies are both terrifying and hilariously slow, stumbling through routines that mirror the living character's own daily drudgery. There's a brilliant sequence where Shaun, oblivious, walks to the store through chaos, completely missing the carnage in the background, proof that sometimes the real horror is just how little we pay attention. Shaun of the Dead succeeds as both a parody and a legitimate entry in the zombie canon. It's a film that wears its love of horror on its sleeve while making you laugh at every turn. In the end, the message is clear. Surviving the end of the world might just be about sticking with your friends, facing your fears, and knowing when to take life a little less seriously. If there's any movie that proves parody can have brains and heart, it's this one. Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, 1997. If the swinging 60s and the secret agent craze ever needed a jolt of pure chaos, Mike Myers delivered it with Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. This movie didn't just parody James Bond, it threw every spy movie convention out the window and replaced them with go-go boots, absurd gadgets, and more velvet than an entire Las Vegas casino. When Myers unleashed his toothy, bumbling British super spy on the world, he changed the way audiences viewed both comedy and the spy genre forever. The premise is bonkers in all the right ways. Austin Powers, the world's grooviest secret agent, is cryogenically frozen in the 1960s and thawed out decades later to face his nemesis, Dr. Evil, also played by Myers. What follows is a wild mashup of swinging London nostalgia and modern-day culture shock. Austin is a man out of time, baffled by the changes in the world, but utterly undeterred in his mission to stop evil and, of course, to party as only he can. Myers fills every scene with catchphrases, sight gags, and physical comedy that is both smart and unapologetically silly. The real genius of Austin Powers lies in its total commitment to the joke. From over-the-top villain lairs to henchmen with comically tragic backstories, the film revels in lampooning every Bond cliché. Dr. Evil, with his obsession for world domination and ridiculous demands for ransom, became an icon in his own right, complete with pinky finger gestures and more daddy issues than a soap opera. The supporting cast, including Elizabeth Hurley as the no-nonsense Vanessa Kensington and Seth Green as the perpetually unimpressed Scott Evil, grounds the madness with sharp comedic timing. What elevates Austin Powers above mere spoof is its affection for the genre it's roasting. The sets are gloriously tacky, the costumes are pure psychedelic excess, and the soundtrack pulses with British invasion hits. The film's humor is broad, sure, but it's also clever, riffing on everything from international intrigue to the weirdest parts of 60s pop culture. Decades after its release, it's still being quoted and referenced, proof that its unique brand of absurdity has true staying power. Austin Powers proved that parody can be both sharp and endlessly fun. It took everything audiences loved and secretly laughed at about spy movies and cranked it up to 11. If you haven't seen it, you're missing out on the wildest dance party in cinematic espionage history. Hot Shots, 1991. When the world needed a send-up of action movies, particularly those high-flying, slow-motion heroics of Top Gun, along came Hot Shots. Like its comedy cousin Airplane, Hot Shots takes everything serious about Hollywood action and turns it into a non-stop barrage of sight gags, one-liners, and sheer absurdity. Director Jim Abrahams, a veteran of the parody genre, takes the pilot seat and steers the film into wonderfully turbulent territory, lampooning not just Top Gun, but a whole squadron of war and action films. The story is as classic as it gets. Topper Harley, a maverick fighter pilot with a troubled past, is called back into action to help save the day. Charlie Sheen delivers a performance that's the comedic opposite of his tough guy roles, deadpan, committed, and completely in on the joke. The supporting cast is a who's who of comedy talent, including Cary Elwes, Valeria Golino, and Lloyd Bridges, who delivers some of the film's funniest lines with a straight face that would make even Leslie Nielsen proud. What makes Hot Shots Standout is its absolute refusal to let a single moment go unmocked. From training montages gone wrong to dogfights where the laws of physics no longer apply, every frame is packed with visual and verbal humor. The film takes particular delight in the details. Look close and you'll spot background jokes, sight gags, and references that reward viewers who are paying attention. Even the love scenes are played for laughs, pushing romance into the realm of pure farce. Hot Shots also proves that parody isn't just about poking fun. It's about understanding what makes the originals work and then turning those strengths into comedy gold. The film is fast, fun, and never lets up, making it a favorite for anyone who loves action movies or just loves laughing at them. It's a spoof that knows its audience and gives them exactly what they want: wall-to-wall laughs, wild stunts, and a reminder that sometimes the best way to fly is with your tongue planted firmly in your cheek. Tropic Thunder 2008. Hollywood loves to make movies about heroes, but Tropic Thunder is the movie that flips the whole idea upside down and shows you just how messy it gets when actors try to be heroes for real. Directed by Ben Stiller and loaded with a cast of comedy legends, Tropic Thunder is both a parody and a savage roast of the movie industry itself. Here, the target isn't just war films, it's every ego-driven, method-acting, over-the-top production that ever tried to win awards by going big and loud. The plot is a delightful mess. A group of pampered actors is dropped into the jungle to shoot the ultimate Vietnam War epic, only to stumble into real-life danger with no clue how to survive. Stiller plays Tug Speedman, an action star desperate to revive his career. Jack Black is a comedian with more personal problems than punchlines. And Robert Downey Jr. steals the show as Kirk Lazarus, an Oscar-winning actor so obsessed with his craft that he literally transforms himself for every role. The brilliance is in the details. Each actor thinks they're in control, but as the chaos builds, it's clear none of them have any idea what they're doing. The crew is gone, the script is worthless, and the only guide they have is an explosives expert who'd rather blow things up than explain anything. Tropic Thunder doesn't hold back on its satire. It takes direct aim at the absurdities of the industry: outrageous method acting, clueless directors, greedy studios, and actors desperate for praise. The movie is filled with fake trailers and commercials that are as memorable as the film itself, and Tom Cruise delivers a legendary performance as a bald, foul-mouthed studio boss that nobody saw coming. Every joke is sharp, every moment of action is as overblown as the movies it mocks, and yet it all hangs together because the cast is fully committed to the madness. The film caused plenty of controversy, but that's part of its legacy. It's a comedy that takes risks, dares to push the boundaries, and lands almost every punchline. In the end, Tropic Thunder is a parody that refuses to take itself seriously, even as it lampoons everyone who does. It's the kind of movie you can watch over and over, always finding a new joke in the chaos. For anyone who loves movies about movies, this one takes the cake and then throws it in your face, just for the laugh. Monty Python and the Holy Grail 1975. If you ask anyone about the Holy Grail of parody movies, chances are they'll mention a certain British comedy troupe armed with coconuts and a medieval sense of mischief. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is not just a parody of Arthurian legend, it's a masterclass in breaking every rule, both in filmmaking and comedy. While it hails from across the pond, Hollywood has embraced it so completely that it now lives at the center of cult comedy lore. The plot follows King Arthur and his ragtag band of knights as they embark on a quest for the Holy Grail, but don't expect anything resembling a serious epic. Instead, you get killer rabbits, taunting Frenchmen, and an enchanter named Tim. The film thrives on absurdity, jumping from scene to scene with little care for logic or continuity because the punchlines are the real destination. The Pythons, Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Eric Idle, Michael Palin, Terry Gilliam, and Terry Jones play multiple roles, switching accents and costumes faster than you can count, turning even the smallest part into comedy gold. What sets Holy Grail apart is its absolute fearlessness. It makes fun of everything: knights, chivalry, historians, and even the concept of endings itself. The production was famously low budget, forcing the team to invent their way through problems, most iconically, substituting coconut halves for horse hooves. This kind of creative chaos is exactly what makes the film so beloved. It's a collection of jokes, gags, and songs, all strung together by sheer audacity and a shared desire to make each other and the audience laugh until it hurts. Holy Grail's influence can't be overstated. It's been quoted endlessly, reenacted at parties, adapted for Broadway, and referenced in everything from The Simpsons to video games. The film's absurdist style, visual puns, and total commitment to nonsense have made it the gold standard for anyone trying to blend smart and silly. Even if you've never seen the movie, you probably know at least 5 of its lines by heart. Monty Python and the Holy Grail isn't just a parody. It's the reason parody movies exist as we know them. In the kingdom of comedy, this film will always rule. So, what have we learned on this wild ride through Parody's Hall of Fame? That comedy isn't afraid to throw a pie at authority, break the fourth wall, or poke fun at the movies we love most. These films didn't just mock Hollywood, they made it better, showing us all how to laugh at the big picture. If any of these cult classics shaped your sense of humor or taught you to love the absurd, hit that like button, drop your favorites in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into cinema's wildest corners. Keep laughing, keep questioning, and remember, sometimes the best stories are the ones that dare to make fun of themselves.